Hi, this is Kevin at the Virtual Planetarium at Raritan Valley Community College. Welcome to our weekly Star Talk. Today we're going to be talking about the constellation of Orion and the bright stars that make up this very famous wintertime constellation. But before we do that, let's talk about our upcoming moon phases. We have a full moon on January 17th, we have a last quarter moon on January 25th, and then we have a new moon on February 1st. Now, like I said, today we're going to be talking about the constellation of Orion. Orion is probably one of the most famous constellations, and it's a staple of the winter sky. A really neat thing about Orion is that it sits right on the equatorial plane, so that's the line that we have set up right now. The equator is the line that runs from east to west, and it is a point that you can see from anywhere on Earth. So the cool thing about this constellation is that it's visible from anywhere on the planet. Although if you're close to the poles, you can only see about half the constellation. Now, the real reason Orion is so recognizable, however, is because it is so big and bright. So right now we have our sky set up for January 22nd, and we have it set up for about 9 o'clock at night. And at this time, Orion is directly above the south, so it's as high as it's going to be in the sky, which is as good a time to see it. Now, like I said, Orion is really bright and it's really recognizable. It is made up of a lot of stars, but there are 7 stars that are very easy to spot that make it very easy to find in the sky. We have these 3 stars right here in the middle, then we have these 2 stars that make up the shoulders, and then we have 2 stars down here that make up the legs of Orion. Orion is supposed to be this hunter in the sky, so here we have a better picture of him. The rest of the constellation, he has an arm that goes over his head, which has either a sword or a club, and then he has an arm stretched out in front of him that's usually a shield, but here it's a lion pelt for some reason. I don't know. The brightest star in the constellation of Orion is actually one of its knees. It's the knee on the right over here. It's a star called Rigel. Rigel is a blue supergiant star, and it's actually the 7th brightest star in the whole sky. But even though it's the brightest star in Orion, it's actually probably not the most famous star in this constellation. That famous star would be this one right up here called Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse is really famous because it's really easy to find. It's got a very distinct reddish color, and also it is a very variable star, and that means that it changes in brightness. And it changes quite a bit. While normally it's like the 10th brightest star in the sky, it can actually drop to be the 23rd brightest star in the sky or be as bright as the 5th brightest star in the sky. So it has a very big range. Now, Orion is also very interesting and intriguing for our scientists because we think that it is nearing the end of its life. It is a red supergiant star, and that means that it's pretty old and that it's getting close to the end of its life cycle. And that means that hopefully it's going to go supernova fairly soon. It's a very massive star, so when it blows up, it's going to be something very spectacular to see in the sky. When it does go supernova, it's probably going to be brighter than our own moon in the sky, so that's going to be a sight to see. And like I said, scientists think it's going to happen fairly soon. But unfortunately, in astronomical terms, soon could mean either a year or 10,000 years, so we don't really know when it's going to happen. But we can hope that it'll happen sometime in our lifetimes because it would be really, really cool. Now, you probably heard at some point in 2020 that Betelgeuse, got super dim and people started to speculate that it was going to explode sometime soon. Well, it turns out that it really wasn't getting ready to explode. It was just like a giant cloud of stuff that came off the surface, and it was blocking the view of the star a little bit, so it got noticeably dimmer in the sky. Now, another cool thing about Betelgeuse is that it is so big and so close, it's only about 550 light years away, that we've actually been able to somewhat resolve its surface using ESO's Very Large Telescope. And yes, that's the actual name of the telescope. It's actually not just a single telescope, it's an array of telescopes that put together make a bigger virtual telescope. And this was the really cool picture that we see of Orion's somewhat resolved surface. And we can tell, or scientists can tell from this, that there's a lot of turbulence in the atmosphere, and they can learn a lot more about what's happening in the atmosphere of this giant star, which is really cool. Now, next to Betelgeuse, in Orion's other shoulder right over here, we have a star with a familiar name for those of you who are fans of Harry Potter. And this is a star called Bellatrix. Now, Bellatrix is the third brightest star in the constellation and another cornerstone of the constellation. So it's fairly easy to find as well, and it helps you round out the whole constellation too. So that's why it's good to be able to find it. Now, probably the most defining part of Orion is the belt right here, which are these three stars in the middle right here. Now, these three stars aren't particularly bright, but their position and location and shape makes it a very recognizable asterism. And if you don't know what an asterism is, it's basically an unofficial constellation. It's a group of stars that's very recognizable even though it's not a constellation. So while a lot of people won't be able to find Orion itself or the whole constellation, they can definitely spot Orion's belt right here. And using these three stars in the belt, we can actually find other constellations in the sky, but we're actually going to talk about that next week, so we'll save that for next week. Now, just below Orion's belt, we have what looks to be another group of three stars right here that are perpendicular to the belt. This is what is known as the sword or the sheath. Now, a really cool thing about these three stars right here is that when you zoom into it, what you think is a second star right here in the middle is actually not. So when we zoom into this middle part right here, we notice that that bright spot turns from a single star to a very bright cloud, to a very bright nebula. And this right here is what is called the Great Orion Nebula. Now what that is it's basically this giant cloud of gas and dust that is so bright that when you look at it with just your eyes, it kind of looks like a star. Now, since you can see it with just your eyes, you can definitely see it and appreciate it with any pair of binoculars. The bigger the binoculars, and if you have a telescope, that's even better because you're going to be able to see a lot of texture and structure in this giant gas cloud right here. But even with just a small pair of binoculars, you can see the Great Orion Nebula right here. And again, it is right in the middle of the sheath down here, which we can see as three stars perpendicular to the belt up here. So that's really cool. So there you have it. These are the defining stars in the constellation of Orion. The belt is definitely the easiest to find, and from there we can find the shoulders up here made of Betelgeuse and Bellatrix. And then we have the two knees down here. Rigel is the brightest one we talked about. And then the other knee is called Sheath, but it's not really that bright, so we don't talk about it that often. But the cool thing about the whole constellation is that below the belt right here, we have the Sheath, which has the beautiful, beautiful Orion Nebula, which is actually one of the most beautiful sights in the winter sky. So if you get a chance to go outside, you should definitely take a look at that. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Hope you learned something new. Again, definitely try to find Orion out there in the sky. Next week, we're going to use the belt to find other constellations in the sky, so stay tuned for that. If you like this video, please give us a like, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. We're going to be putting out new videos every week. Thanks again for joining us, and hope you have a great week.